ask and answer the question, feel free, okay?
Talking to robots.
Yeah, exactly. Direct to the point. So yeah, conversational AI basically is, like trying to make, the machines to be capable of understanding and processing and responding to human language, and to be as much as human as a machine can be right now with the technology that we have right now nowadays. Um so when we talk about conversational AI, at least for me, at least one of these things or processes should happen. Okay, once, or at least for me, these are the most important ones. Okay, so the first one is the automatic speech recognition. If we are under, under Alexa or Google Assistant, the automatic speech recognition is happening. That means that we are transforming voice into text. No. Another one, which is super important, is the natural language understanding, which is a subset of the natural language processing, which is basically once we are talking about Alexa and Google Assistant, for example. Once we have transformed that voice into text, it basically try to understand what our users is trying to tell us, right? Like with the utterances, with the parameters as well, that depends on the NLU engine. But basically it's from voice transforming to bulk text, and that text being like understood. Okay, the other one is the text to speech. So again, if we are under the Alexa or Google Assistant umbrella, or either with we on an IVR system, is when you transform text into voice or sound. Okay, for instance, like Google Assistant and Azure and AWS, they have their own services. For instance, AWS uses AWS Poly. Google is called just text to speech. So yeah, but this presentation is not technical, so we are not gonna talk about cloud vendors. Okay. And then the last one is the generative AI. Okay, so that is when we, or where we are seeing, that GPT-3, GPT-4 basically is auto-generate prompts based on current conversations. Okay, we're gonna talk about generative AI. So basically, when we talk about processes, and for instance, in the case of the Alexa or IVR system, that's something that there is sound and voice interaction. Those are the things that usually happen, which is basically the user talks with like with the IVR system by phone, for instance, or with the Alexa or something, requesting like something. What is happening is that it's going to happen the automated speech recognition, and then the natural language understanding. So what we at that moment, what we are going to know is basically what we are going to understand the request of the user. Like for instance, if we are requesting the weather from Valencia, we are going to know that our user is requesting the weather and not from like wherever is from Valencia. Okay. And then specifically there is a dialogue management. For instance, in voice flow, when you drop blocks and all these things, is when you are creating that dialogue management, and that is when the dialogue itself it happen. Okay. You can say, or you can see the dialogue management or voice flow itself as an state machine. Like we came from here and the input is this one, and then the next state, because we are using, like with this, we are seeing this on a state machine. The next stage is gonna be the this one. Okay. And then the natural language generation, that could be, for instance, generative AI, or using GPT-3, GPT-4, or just running or doing the text to speech. Okay, transforming text into text and responding to the user. Okay, those are like the classical conversational AI workflow. If we are talking about Alexa and Google Assistant, we are going to have the automated speech recognition and the text to speech here. But if we are just talking about chatbots, probably what we are gonna see is the natural language understanding and the dialogue management. Okay, that is when you create, for instance, a voice flow project, is when you specify like if it is a voice or a chatbot, that is what happened. Like we remove those processes, and that is why in the GUI, when you create an assistant, is the first thing that you have to choose, or one of the things that you have to choose. Okay. But there are more processes that I think that should be included in the conversational AI. Or when we talk about conversational AI, it's not just a matter of text to speech, speech to text, NLU. There are more things. One of the other things that for me are very important to talk about conversational AI is when we introduce the context. Okay, the context is very important because when you are creating conversations and when you are interacting with humans, like as for instance, like as we interact in Slack, it is not the same or it's not the same way that I interact with, I don't know, with a person that I know a lot and with a new hire, for example. Okay, so that is context. Another things that you can have in mind is, for instance, feelings. For that, it can be use the sentiment analysis. For instance, Nico, I think he has a sentiment analysis stuff deployed that can be used on our voice flow projects. Dialogflow CX has a sentiment analysis, so you can, depending on the current feeling of the user, for instance, in voice flow, you can take one path or another, right? Location, hour of the day of the week. When you are interacting with a chatbot, you can use like different ways of expressing your things. If you are, I don't know, if it is on during the week rather than the weekends. Language, dialect, for instance, in the UK, that they have a bunch of dialects, like the Irish, the Scottish. Like that is important as well. The tone that you use. And another thing that is important when we talk about conversational AI, and this is more related to a conversational design, is the multimodality. When you have multiple inputs, the voice user interface, like the NLU, your intents, your slots, and all that stuff, and then the graphic user interface, for instance, the Echo Show, or sensors. Okay, when we introduce sensors, we are talking about ambient computing. Okay, because what we are getting information from a lot of inputs, like, I don't know, like humidity, like this kind of sensors that can be placed in terms of designing your conversation. It is important because the conversation could change depending on those sensors. Okay, so that is the something that Amazon is pushing a lot, and they call it, computing. Sorry. So for the speech recognition, there is something that you are very familiar with, which is what is the utterances in intense slot. So yeah, if you are talking with a chatbot and you are requesting the information, you can request, for instance, in this case, the weather. You can request the weather in a lot of multiple ways, like tell me the weather of Valencia, or just Valencia, if it is a weather chatbot, for example. So those things are the utterances that you are requesting, the same intent. And then Valencia is the thing that can change, like the variable. So that could be Valencia, could be the city that you want to pick. So this is the NLU itself. Okay, natural language understanding. And when we talk about generative AI, is when we start talking, about the chat GPT, when we talk about the GPT-3, 4, XYZ, and the other large language models that are coming nowadays. So basically, that is another process that is coming, and you are seeing on under the, and on voice flow with the projects and all the things that we are releasing every day. But yeah, so this is basically, or at least for me, a game changer in the conversational AI stuff. So probably you have seen, like, like a lot, like what is a LLM, as I said, GPT, XYZ, PaLM, LLaMA, ChatGPT, what's that? Okay, so basically GPT-3, 4, PaLM, and LLaMA, those are large language models. Okay, LLaMA is from Google, no, from Meta. PaLM is from Google, and GPT 3 and 4 is from OpenAI. Okay, so basically a large language model itself is a language, consists of neural networks that have been trained with billions of parameters. Okay, and large quantities of unlabeled text using unsupervised learning. Okay, so on ML you have supervised learning and unsupervised learning, which are basically the supervised is when you are giving the information for your neural network. You specify, like for instance, if you are training a image detector to detect a watch, the all the information that you are gonna, all the examples that you're gonna give to your neural network, you're gonna specify if each photo is or contains I don't know, like a clock or not, if it is a clock detector. Okay, but in this case it's unsupervised. Okay, so you just throw everything to a neural network, and then the neural network is trained. And then ChatGPT is basically a layer on top of the GPT-3 or 4, developed by OpenAI. Okay, which is super trendy. Okay, another thing that are happening, and why is this super important? This is a sentence that I took from the Dennis blog post, which is highly recommended. I highly recommend to make, and like to make a read, or to read that blog post, which is basically the prompt chaining is another process that the LLMs introduce in the conversational AI, which is basically is a technique used in conversational AI that uses output of one prompt as the input to the next prompt, or part of your conversation. What does this mean? For instance, let's say that you are new in the field, in the conversational AI field. Okay, so during this conversation, during my talk, I am, like adding as a context, like all the concepts that I'm explaining to you. So those things, those prompts chaining, that is gonna be added to all to the conversation itself. Like it's like when you meet one person for the first time, you don't know anything from that person, but when you are starting interacting with him or her, you are gonna see that like you are gonna learn more things. So that is kind of, like the parallelism with the prompt chaining, that you are gonna add the output to your conversation. Okay, so the every output is going to be as the input of the next interaction in your conversation. How can we do that in VoiceFlow? That is, Nico prepared a project, an example. So what you can do is, well, in this super simple example, basically, what we are gonna have is something called a context, which is the context of the conversation. Okay, we are gonna just capture whatever the user says, and every thing that we have captured plus every output, what we are gonna call is basically our OpenAI GPT-3, um, to say something like that, like for instance, like everything that you are gonna request, that the user is gonna request you, you are gonna have that context, which is the last response, and the question, which is the last to trans. So when you are requesting information to GPT-3 or GPT-4, you are gonna add that. You are gonna do the prompt chaining. Okay, so let me show you how, because I prepared that. So this is the example. It's a little bit different as the one that you have seen, because I'm using a JavaScript blog that is from the Nico's blog post as well. But basically, is whenever you start the conversation, the context is resetted, of course, and everything that is captured, we are gonna create a context. So this is this is code, but I think it's pretty much understandable. So the context, what we are gonna do is basically append the context to the previous one, and add the last response and last utterance. And then what we are gonna ask to ChatGPT is like whatever we are gonna ask plus with this context, okay? So our assistant will know, and also the LLM will know a bunch of things during our conversation, because it is gonna understand, during our interaction. So, for instance, let's get started. Let's say hi there, for example. Let's ask about myself, like who is. I have to say that I got some funny responses. So let's see what we are gonna see now. I'm not sure. Okay, so for instance, yeah, I have to say that he was telling that I was like a CTO, CEO, and I don't know from where, but yeah. So let's pick my bio, okay, and let's say like let's send that. It's thinking. It's thinking.
It's gonna be like, no, you're lying. He doesn't exist. I don't know anything about him.
Ooh. Let's
Too
try
much to handle. Timed out, probably.
Xavi's just done too many things. Can't handle it.
That's very fascinating. So sound like a very experienced all-round individual, okay? And then when we ask, like, tell me more about Jair Portilla, Edo, he has the context, or it should has the context about me, if there is not a timeout. Come on.
So if you ever Googled yourself and were sad that nothing came up, this is how you fix it and stroke your ego with ChatGPT.
Okay, let's try it again. Tell me more. Tell me more now. Tell me more about myself. But yeah, I mean, I said, I just said, tell me more, and it appends, or he know, the assistant itself knows that, for instance, we were talking about myself, and now instead of telling us like I'm not sure who I am, it is taking all the information that I added, because we have made this prompt chaining, because we are meeting each other right now. Like he's like he's meeting with me for the first time, and it's a match, So yeah, Nico, go ahead.
Yes. So a little quick fix regarding the code. We are missing the, so you have the context. If you go to the code step, and that's my bad, I didn't update this one. So after the last context thing, you might want to also add, so go to a new line and type user. And this need to be into the prompt. So you have those quote. You need to be sure to and type user, and we will use the last two terms here.
Okay.
Simply just to clarify that basically what you will type in the prompt will be the user interaction. if that makes sense. It just it simplified the process for GPT.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, with as you saw, like with just this, you can create an entire full conversation doing the prompt chaining, and yeah, like having a unique interaction every single turn, okay, which is fascinating, but it has some bad things. Okay, so let's talk about those impediments or cons, because it's a little bit scary. The first thing is, with the generative AI, the testing itself is so much more complex. I mean, because every single turn, the interaction is going to be unique. You know, you don't know what the GPT or the LLM that you are using is gonna tell you, because is non-deterministic. Okay, the auto-generated prompts are kind of without control. You can specify, like those contexts. You can specify, like like the user these things and doing this prompt chaining, and you can scope the conversation with the context that you are adding. But again, it's without control, because that is happening under a large language model. Okay, that is something that you cannot control, and you can break some privacy policies. You can have some problems. That is why, for instance, at Voiceflow we have to add the privacy policy pop-up that the users needs to accept when they enable the AI step. Okay. So yeah, we mentioned a bunch of times context. So let's talk about contextual design super quick, with just one example. Okay, when we talk about jam without context, that could be a lot of things. In English, that could be traffic jam, that could be fruit jam, or music jam. That's the fun example. So uh, some contextual design tips, sorry, when you are designing your conversation, and that is the generative AI helps a lot, is basically designed by thinking that every interaction should not be the same, should be unique. Okay, and trying to have like a wow effect on every interaction. Okay, that with generative AI is quite simple, because in the past, before LLMs, what we were doing is just adding a bunch of, like reprompts, and with a random. But right now, with this new tech, it's way easier. Okay. Check multiple variables that can affect the conversation in terms of the context, location, first time interaction, hour of the day. Those things can change your conversation completely. Then be personal, like individualize your entire interaction, and be adaptable, like let's user speak in their own words. Okay, so everything, like the chatbot and the user is talking in the same way, let's say. In terms of design teams, what I always recommend is basically make your conversational AI design, build it, train it, and evaluate. Okay, once you finish that, start again. Okay, redesign or make the changes that you want, build it again, train, and evaluate. When we talk about the whole development process, like not only the design itself, the process should be something like that, like the starting point, the ideation, designing the voice user interface, or the NLU, like the how the users are going to interact with your chatbot or with your voice app. Develop the backend if it is needed. Unify your NLU plus the backend. Test, make some branding, and then publish, to production. And when you want to start again, so it's the same loop. Yeah, and as a conclusion, sorry, I understand the final users, validate the designs before develop, create deliverables for your design. Basically, like go to Voiceflow, sign up, create your design, and test it. Use tools that simplify your life, like Voiceflow, and test, and test always. And that's pretty much it. So I covered, like like something like from the basics to all the things that are happening right now. So you have, like, in terms of conversational AI, like a screenshot of what is happening out there, basically. And that's it. Thanks,